After endless external seeking for validation, distraction, and peace, I have arrived here, writing this.
It takes time. The severity of making this count, whatever that means. I think along the way, that changes, right? Like, what does making this count mean? Younger, it's different than what it is now. The mushrooms really bring me back to reality. Back to reality. You take all these mushrooms and you lose your mind. I take all these mushrooms and I find my mind.
Every time I sit down to write, I can feel my mind squirming in the glare of the blank page's reflection.
Go through a period. I actually have a book. My mom has a book where when they first put the life support thing down my throat or whatever, I would write in the book to communicate with her. And over time, because you become paralyzed, it takes time. Over time, over however many pages, the writing gets to be a straight line, and then the book is empty after that. And she still knew. That mother intuition, she still knew everything. It was incredible.
Welcome to the Hearse podcast. Our special guest for today is my brother Edward Crowe.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So grateful, man. Long time coming.
Absolutely.
Edward is an artist, manager, a photographer, and a seeker.
That's right.
So to begin, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are on your journey?
My name is Edward Crowe. Like you said, I'm an artist, manager, photographer, more by hobby, and a seeker. Where I'm at on my journey, I feel like right now I'm diving deeper than I ever have before. You know what I mean? Like, you come to a certain point in life where you understand that now's the time to really, really search and dig deep. That's where I'm at. And it's interesting because it's like you allow yourself to get to a point where it's hard to say, but like where now I have my own permission to go deeper. Like I have my own permission. Before I wasn't allowed to go there, but I am, and I feel good about it. So where I'm at in my journey is I've gotten to a point where I understand how far I need to search, how intricate the search is. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm at.
Beautiful.
So I'm looking really, really, really harder than ever to find out what it is that I need to do. You know what I mean?
It's amazing.
So, yeah.
It makes me think of things, but I'll tell you this. I want to keep it in the flow. Thank you. I love that, giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
That's radical thinking and living. So, as someone who travels the world for your work, where do you feel the most at home? Is it a place, a feeling? How would you define and describe your ultimate experience of home?
Man, as far as world travel, I mean, it's probably obvious. Like, I mean, it seems like the most obvious thing to say, but Egypt has been my favorite place in the whole world, just because it's so different, and there's something about it that feels familiar, or at home, really, But yeah, I've been all over, and I love to travel. That's one of my favorite things to do. But Egypt is definitely my favorite place, and I would like to go back. There's somewhere that like I'll skip a new place just to go back to.
Wow.
What
is it about the feelings that it evokes or the sensations that you would describe that feel familiar? And
just the ancient aspect and not really knowing, the speculating as to why it is the way it is, why it is where it is. And also growing up, with, like I mentioned to you guys off camera, but is with my grandmother being infatuated with it. So it was instilled in me as a child that there was something special. I think that's been nurtured and, over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my favorite place, man.
I hope to go.
Yeah.
As an adventurer of space and time, what are some of the most powerful journeys you have had? Can you tell us a little bit about some of your most life-changing adventures and how they altered your perspective on life?
Yes, sir. I can. So, psychedelics play a big role in my search for self-improvement,
Mm.
right? But obviously, when I started to go down that path, I didn't really know that. It kind of figures itself out. It kind of teaches that to you, I should say.
Mm.
But there was one specific time when I felt that I moved from eating mushrooms because I'm a kid in high school and
Mm.
they're just around me
Mm.
to, oh shit, there's something here,
Mm.
right? Something special. And that night was I got two things I would like to share in regards to this.
Please.
But that night specifically, I ate so many mushrooms that they made me sick, right? So I had to go get sick. And then when I went, washed my hands and, cleaned up, turn around to look, and I saw what looked like a hole in reality. It was
Mm.
like translucent. You could see through it, right? And it just started to open up. And before this, I just tripped. Stuff was funny, that type of thing. So it started to open up a hole in reality,
Mm.
and you could see it vividly, and you could also see through it.
Mm.
And what it was what appeared to me is like an Indian goddess, right?
Mm.
I think we've all seen her. I don't know who it is exactly, but she had the head dress going on, right? And she had her hands together, had several hands, but had her hands together, was doing the dance. And the way she was doing the dance, it was almost like pistons in an engine.
Mm.
It was perfect, right? There was no flaw in her rhythm whatsoever.
Mm.
And I was intrigued, and I felt the need to go towards it. And I kind of wanted to go through this and go where she was at. Keep in mind, I'm tripping balls, right? I'm
Mm.
really, really out there right then. And I immediately, almost like telepathically, got the message that if you come here, like you're welcome, but if you come here, you die there, right?
Mm.
And the moment that I felt that fear of, oh shit, I died there, I died here, it said, went away.
Mm.
Couldn't get it back if I wanted to.
Mm.
It was gone. So that was my first experience with, wait, there's something deeper than, watching a movie and tripping out or whatever.
Mm.
And there was one other time, once I started, this is more recent, and I started nurturing this and trying to tap into it and, making it more of a conscious effort.
Mm.
My mother had given me a shaman's cabinet from
Mm.
a shaman from the Yoruba tribe, right?
Mm.
And I'd never heard of them or anything, but it
I've
was
never
from,
heard of them.
well, they're apparently, and I don't want to speak as though I have too much information on them, but my understanding is they're a tribe in modern day Nigeria,
Mm.
right? And the crazy thing is she bought me this cabinet, and it's really, really cool. It's like hand carved, but it's almost hard to believe like she bought it from a museum that was going out of business.
Mm.
So it's a special piece, right? Right after I got this cabinet, I left my medicine in the cabinet,
Mm.
went to Europe. On the way to Europe, I got in an Uber,
Mm.
right? And the gentleman driving the Uber was very nice. He was asking me, where you going? Where you from? This and that. So we got to talking. And he said, he was driving like this. And he said, I'm from a place, modern day Nigeria. And he goes, you may have heard, he goes, it's called Yoruba. And looked back at me and I said, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, I can't even tell this guy how crazy this is.
Yeah.
And he said something in the Yoruba language, right?
Mm.
And it was, I actually have it on my phone somewhere, but it was, may God watch over you on your journey, right?
Mm.
And he said it in the language. I said, look, man, I will never post this or put it on the internet or anything, but can I record you saying that?
Mm.
It's too awesome, too incredible.
Serendipitous.
Right.
Everything.
That's the
Yeah.
perfect word. That's what I was looking for. So
Yeah.
he said it for me. And make a long story short, when I got back, I took a big journey. I don't know how much I took, but I took enough.
Mm.
And at one point, my fiance usually journeys with me. We just, do this at the house or whatever. And at one point, I kind of like fell back, almost blacked out,
Mm.
and came to. It was only about 2 whole seconds. It wasn't a lot of time. About 2 whole seconds, and I was surrounded by African tribal people.
Wow.
None of them had any hair. They were shaved heads.
Mm.
I couldn't tell if it was ancient or futuristic. I don't know if it was in the past or in the future. I don't know. I don't know if I was being born or dying, but I loved
Both.
them and they loved me.
Wow.
And I was on my back looking up, and I never saw my own body. So I don't
Wow.
know who I was or what I was, but I was
Mm.
one of them, and they cared for me and I cared for them. It's crazy.
Wow. Wow.
And I came back and asked my fiance, what was that? She didn't know what I was talking about.
I can't wait till you read LSD and the Mind of the Universe.
Man, I'm excited,
Because
man.
this guy took 73 high dose journeys over 20 years and documented them extensively as a professor. And anyway, my favorite stuff is when outside experiences resonate with my own. And I think based off hearing you and my dad talk about things and both of us, that book's gonna hold up some cool mirrors.
Man, I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. So we connected initially through a mutual appreciation of mysticism and magic. Can you speak to your relationship with spirit and how you connect to the mystery, which you've obviously already spoken a bit about, but if you care to expand?
Man, I mean, I think there's a beauty in the mystery. I think it's at one point I realized that none of us, not only myself, but none of us in this forum will ever be able to understand or learn everything.
Mm,
I think that's beautiful. I think it's incredible.
me
I think
too.
it's I could live 1,000 years. I'll never understand this whole thing.
Yeah,
I think that's incredible. Like there's something magical about that.
yeah.
But as far as my path is not to try to understand everything. My path is to leave a good impression when I leave here.
Mm,
You know, what do you do to contribute to make this place a little bit better
mm,
before you pass through?
mm,
And that's my only goal. I'll never understand. Maybe we'll do several lifetimes. I don't know, but I think it's important to just focus on. It's easy to get lost in everything we have to distract us these days. I think the most important thing is leaving a good impression when you leave. That's it.
yeah.
You know.
Well, contributing, what you said, my mom always talks about that. And again, from different mythologies I've read, that we all come here with a specific contribution hidden in our souls, and it's our work to
Wow.
bring that out.
I
And it'd
love
be
that.
too easy if we could just do it. So implanted in the soul is also the shadow of that, which makes it like tricky and a quest. And most people, it seems, don't get their contribution out because we get distracted or we compare. But I love that idea of just a contribution
Right.
to the bigger thing. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I love what you guys said earlier too about being careful whether you're praying for someone or this or that. Like you don't know if they may need what they're going through. That's
Well,
incredible.
I mean, yeah, the monkey and the fish, the monkey saving the fish from drowning and then killing it. And Dad, you always talk about, to paraphrase a bit, but like, how do we, if we're immortal beings, perhaps, or we're from the oneness, from this energy, why would you pity? You can have empathy, I think, and you can, if someone asks for your help, for sure, and
Right.
asking the ancestors or whatever. But, if someone needs to be in the illusion of being in a horrible situation, they probably planned that, I think, and intentionally chose that moment. And then in that same book, which I keep referencing because it fucking blew my mind,
Hell yeah.
he pivoted this idea of hell as not the opposite of heaven, but that hell is actually a purification realm, and it's actually for the spiritually ambitious, because there's slower ways to reach heaven. But if you're ambitious and you want to go, you put yourself into certain suffering, which wakes something up in you, which is looks like what's happening with the world right now on a
Right.
mass scale, that there's suffering because you can't hide anymore. You need to fucking come online. And he believes, and I do too, kind of, that we have incarnated infinite times, that we're all kind of part of this one thing, and that what's happening is that the future human is currently being born, which may take generations, but we're in the birth right now of a new, and it comes, if you think of birth, I caught my son in my arms upstairs, we had a home birth. So it's an intense situation, usually,
Incredible.
depending. So anyway.
No, I have a feeling about just a side theory about heaven and hell. Like, I feel like whatever you project in this lifetime,
Mm,
that if you're always mad at people, you're always spreading, bad energy or good energy or whatever the
mm,
case may be. I feel like when you pass, that energy that you've nurtured and channeled and
mm,
brought into this world, maybe that's where you stay, and that's why they call it
mm,
heaven or hell. You know what I
mm,
mean? So like right now, where are you at? Are you in heaven or hell? If you
mm.
pass right now, that's where you're at. That's where you're going. You know?
Totally. Yeah, we got to explore that. We got to go in nature and have
Yeah.
long talks about this, or long silences probably would be wiser. Um, that's really cool. The ripples.
Hmm.
So As one of the hardest working and most prolific people I've seen in show business, from all the varieties of things that you and your friends do,
Hmm.
really like never seen, I'm someone who's been creating a long time, just from fashion to art to travel to experiences. How do you ground yourself and balance yourself in order to not burn out and continue flowing at such a steady pace?
An old friend of mine a long time ago told me his name was Mr. Roberts. He was probably the hardest working guy you ever met. And
Mm,
he just told me, he said, work hard and rest harder. You
mm,
know what I mean? Which sounds simple,
it's not.
but I just vacation really, really hard. You know what I mean? Like when it's time to go, man, I just go, and everybody understands that. And I appreciate you saying that. That was really,
I mean it.
really awesome to hear you say that, and I appreciate that.
Mm,
But yeah, man, I think taking care of yourself and going on a good vacation, it is good for your spirit and good for your mind, and
yeah.
is beyond important. It's way more important than any of this business, anything like that.
Mm,
And that's the only way I can come back refreshed enough to give a shit about these things.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like it's
mm,
important to tap into your inner child. You know what I mean?
mm.
And go be a kid. Leave me alone with
Turn the
this
phone
stuff.
off.
Exactly. I have another phone that it's off right now and it just stays off until it's on. And I have a safe that they
I remember I heard,
remember I
so
told
yeah,
you
you
that?
took a lockbox for your
Yeah, it's
phones or
like I
something.
guess people use it for like snacks who can't control their snack habits, right? So I bought this box that has a timer on it, and sometimes I just throw this thing in there, man, and turn the timer for 10 hours. It's like nothing I can do,
That's amazing. I need one of those. I've turned
Yeah.
on the timer on Instagram. I don't know if you know that you can do that, where
Oh.
it gives you like a 1 minute limit or a 15-minute limit. Problem is you can ignore the limit, so I'm always
Oh yeah, yeah, I saw
but at
that.
least it like triggers me where I'm like, okay, fuck, I don't want to
Yeah,
be on here. Just
yeah,
that's crazy powerful, man. I love that quote from Mr. Roberts you said.
yeah,
We got
Mr.
we got to
Roberts,
put
man.
that as part of this show. That's a gem right there. Shout
Yeah,
out to
for
him.
sure.
Um, every human is so multifaceted, and often many sides of us go unseen. What are some of your deepest passions and dreams that the world might not be aware of?
I would say at this point in my life, just learning how to give back. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Learning how to channel goodness and be impactful. Back to that. You know what I mean? Like we've
contribution.
recently started a 501c3 nonprofit to help underprivileged children
Mm,
who may be in trouble in like the juvenile detention centers and
mm,
stuff like that. I used to go talk to them through my art teacher. He just randomly was like, because I came up in a rocky, kind of past. Like I
mm,
wasn't the best kid,
mm,
and there were certain people. It's interesting because the same art teacher who put me in this position as an adult, he kicked me out of his class,
mm,
and I went to Procone Arts Magnet School, and
mm,
I was just not a good student, man. He kicked me out.
mm,
Didn't want to have anything to do with me. Told the prince. A couple years later, I walked into Antioch High School in an art class, and he's my art teacher.
mm,
We became so close and so cool. I mean, I know him to this day.
mm,
And through the years, he would say, "Man, would you go talk to these kids?
mm,
Go to this juvenile detention center, this what do they call it? Alternative school."
mm,
And I started going and like resonating with these kids. You
mm,
know what I mean? Because I had a criminal background, that type of thing, just weed and stuff like that.
mm,
Nothing crazy, but point is, they will listen to you if they know that that's where you're coming from.
mm,
So then we decided to take it to the next level, and me and Wolf started Slum,
mm,
saving lives using music.
mm.
Right. So we
Crazy
want,
acronym.
yeah. So
That's
we want to,
powerful.
and it's a buddy of mine, Terry Hudson, who actually came up with the acronym. And I was like,
That's beautiful.
we got to go with this. So our goal is to provide grants, mentorship, all the things that to try to get these kids back on track.
Amazing, man. We should, when we release this, we should do something aligned with that to bring awareness to
Yeah,
that,
that
or a
would
way
be
people
awesome
can contribute.
for sure.
Really cool. In my experience, as I said a second ago, every human came to Earth on a personal quest to uncover something. You kind of already answered this, but maybe if there's something else that wants to come up, what do you feel you came to Earth to find, learn, and contribute? You totally have answered it, but again, if
Right, right,
anything,
right. No, I like that we're going down that path.
yeah.
I mean, man, growing up, into the to the point where I'm at now, for a long time, I didn't know what it was about. I was setting goals and trying to, become this successful individual in these different aspects, right? And now I realize it is more simple than that,
Hmm.
you know? And I mean, I think my goal solely is to just, love the people around. It's cliche, but to
No.
love the people around me, love my animal, my family,
Mm,
and make the world a better place.
mm,
However, I can do that.
mm,
Everything else is borderline irrelevant.
mm,
You know what I mean?
mm.
Like we're passing through, we're trying to, do something here, do something there. But at the end of the day, that's my goal,
Mm.
you know? Simple.
Perfect. No, man, simple is the hardest thing to reach though.
Right.
Complicated is easy,
That's a good way to put it.
you know.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to get where I'm at, and I still am shedding. I think it's not about adding, it's about shedding,
Right.
you know.
Right.
That idea of Michelangelo talked about his David sculpture and basically said David was already in the block of marble and all he did was remove everything that wasn't David. And I feel like that's why even not to, I like the idea, well, it's a fine line for me of like a Western culture is always telling us we need more to be better.
Right.
But I think it's actually we need to remove more to be what we already are,
I love that. I
you
think that's
know,
incredible.
like the inner child, whatever that is. And obviously we need to have our experiences of making all sorts of funny mistakes and things to gain the scars and the wisdoms. But I think it
Right.
is about getting back to who's really in there before it all happened with new perspective.
I think it's interesting too, like, man, I think trauma or possibly good things too, but obviously pay attention more to the things that stand out, right?
Mm,
Like,
pain.
but I think these things come through maybe genetics or something like, you might be dealing with trauma from 5 generations ago.
Mm,
You know,
for sure.
it's crazy. Like, and I think that, whatever it is, meditation or psychedelics, these different things can help get that out of your genetics, right?
Mm,
And improve your, moving forward type thing. Cause I know, like, for instance, when I drink alcohol,
mm,
that's why I don't really drink too often.
mm,
As a kid, it used to bring out something angry.
mm,
But I don't know what to attribute it to. I don't really have anything to say that's why that is,
mm.
right? So I think it could go all the way back to maybe my grandfather in the war or something. I don't know,
For sure.
but
For sure.
yeah.
Powerful. In this same vein, I believe we all came here to heal ourselves, perhaps, and the collective, and that our wounds are doorways to true wealth, enlightenment, and love. If you agree with this, what medicine have you found in your wounds?
Going through the things that may have destroyed you can either destroy you or make you know how to, again, make the world a better place.
Mm,
Like, I heard a story one time about a father who was in prison. It was in a book. You guys may have heard the same thing, but
mm,
a father who was in prison for murder, right?
mm,
And one of his sons was also in prison for murder. The other one was very successful, very happy, and,
mm,
whatever, was doing well. And when they interviewed the two sons, they both said something to the tune of, well, why are you so successful? Why are you in prison like your father? They said, well, with a father like that, how would you expect me to turn out?
mm,
They both said the same thing.
mm.
You see what I'm saying? So I think
To
life
the
in general,
paths, the
two different
choice.
paths, two
Yeah,
extremely different paths. It's just kind of how you take it in, you know what I mean? What you decide to do with it, you know?
totally. For me, as an example, not to make it about me at all, but like when I was younger, I got a little heavy for a while and had a lot of shame around my body. And then performing and singing and being in front of the camera, to this day, I have like a lot of trauma around food and I'll like starve myself at certain points.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I won't eat all day if I'm filming weird shit like that. And so that's been a doorway into self empathy, self love, realizing that 99% of the humans that I care about and in the world, even if I don't know them, they're not the coolest people. There's a sweetness. And so any of that like tough, chiseled, perfect, it's like that feels so tight. So anyway, that's
Right.
a wound of mine that I'm still working out every day, but I think there's like a acceptance or some sort of,
Wow.
yeah. And I think it's rare in men, at least like especially maybe heterosexual men, to talk about like food stuff, but it's fucking one of the gnarliest things that I deal with to
Right.
this day, you
That's
know.
crazy. I
Yeah.
have a friend who's going through a similar thing like that.
Yeah. It's
And you
crazy.
wouldn't know it. He's not a big dude. Like he works in the kitchen and has an issue with food.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I've not, yeah, it's anyway, again, not to make it about me, but yeah, medicine, wounds, and all that jazz. So, as we get toward the top of this mountain or the bottom, I don't know which way we're climbing today, but in this day and age where everything moves so quickly and we are constantly being flooded with voices, opinions, and distractions, it feels almost impossible to protect our peace of mind and cultivate true presence. So you've already answered this one again too, but maybe there's more day-to-day stuff that I'm looking for, like when you can't go on a vacation, etc.
Right.
How do you go about returning to yourself?
I meditate. I try to meditate every day and
Mm.
just nothing special, just silence and breathing.
Mm.
Right. I also use something that you ever heard of hape?
I have.
I
It's
use
like
hape.
is it the tobacco
Yeah, it's like
something?
tobacco snuff, and
Yeah.
apparently they've been using it for thousands of years, but it helps center me.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So
Just a peaceful kind of.
yeah, day to day. I mean, man, I like to, the mushrooms really bring me back to reality. They say you take all these mushrooms and you lose your mind. I take all these mushrooms and I find my mind. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
legitimately, like because we lose our mind because of the distractions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I've lost my mind from a child till now. I've lost my mind.
Yeah.
So I tap back into that, and it helps me cope with all the different things. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's interesting how that works.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the more you step into it, the more aware you are of when you're out of balance. Because I feel
Right.
like I've spent most of my life as a young adult, especially, way out of balance. But I was so out of touch with my own nervous system
Right.
that I was just riding it, burning out. But now that I'm healing via therapy, via whatever it may be, if I go out of pocket a little too far, I feel it and I'm like, fuck, I can't even get away with it anymore.
Right.
So it becomes a very relentlessly demanding practice in a good way though. But
Right. Well, speaking of wounds too, I went
Yeah.
through a thing years ago that I feel like plays a role in my personal evolution and trying to stay on track. I went through something called Guillain-Barré syndrome,
Hmm.
which is it's where your myelin sheath is attacked and you're caused to be paralyzed.
Oof.
So I had to learn how to walk again, talk again, do
Oh my God.
everything basically. And like my therapist would use art. Like if you can dress yourself today after going through rehab and that type of thing, if you can dress yourself today, then you can paint this canvas. Right. So they would allow me to do that.
Wow.
So I thought that was really cool. And that was just because they were good people. They were good at what they do.
Yeah.
That they were able to leverage what it was I wanted to do
Wow.
to get to where I needed to be. You know what I mean?
Talk about a wound that makes a lot of sense now. I think of how you're able to function at such a high level because of having been stopped in that way, perhaps.
Well, I remember thinking to myself, the severity of making this count, whatever that means. I think along the way that changes, right? Like what does making this count mean? Younger, it's different than what it is now when I was younger. And you go through a period. I actually have a book. My mom has a book where when they first put the life support thing down my throat or whatever, I would write in the book to communicate with her. And over time, because you become paralyzed, it takes time. Over time, over however many pages, the writing gets to be a straight line, and then the book is empty after that. And she still knew, that mother intuition. She still knew everything. It was incredible. It was like
she could read your lines that weren't even words, kind of thing.
Even when I didn't,
or even when you didn't,
even
write.
when I didn't write anymore,
Wow.
she just knew, and it was like I don't even think she knew how amazing it was, but to me, it was almost like telepathy or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so you weren't trapped and isolated. You had a connection.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Damn. Have you heard of a movie called The Diving Bell and the Butterfly?
I have not.
I think that's what it's called. About an editor of like a Vogue French something. I don't know. And he I saw it a long time ago, but he became fully paralyzed via an accident, something. Long story short, he ended up writing a book by blinking one eye. Like, and the
Oh
people would
wow.
stop and say A, B, C, and he'd blink, and he wrote a whole book.
Oh my God, I'd love to read that book.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I should do that. But damn, man, thanks for sharing that. That's really
Absolutely.
powerful, serious healing and everything. All right. How do you reconcile your insights and all this beautiful kind of awareness about how the universe works, perhaps, while operating within the matrix of Hollywood, since you are in entertainment and having to navigate, like going out last night is something I haven't done. And it's just interesting for me to go from like this moment right here, which
Right.
is what I've become addicted to, actually,
Right.
this quiet. And it's all cool, but it's a little overwhelming for me to just be around all the energy and like
Right.
alcohol and all this stuff. And of course, we were talking about my dad's experience in Hollywood. So yeah, how do you reconcile and balance that?
Man, I recently got a property in the woods. It was 11 acres in Red Woodland Springs outside of Nashville. It's like an hour away.
Mm,
And that's the only way I can cope with everything because, if you stay in this gear all the time, it'll drive me crazy. So entertainment gear, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like, dude, you can't live in that gear and be functional and really just serve your purpose. Like I don't think, you know what I
no,
mean? Maybe somebody can, but I personally, I live in that world a little bit and then I retreat
mm,
to the forest,
mm,
you know?
mm,
And that's where I get my peace. That I
mm,
come deal with the world when I feel necessary or when I have to because of my work. And I
mm,
go back,
mm.
and completely rinse it off. That's the only way,
No, it's
right?
amazing. That's why, again, like part of the reflection of your not just prolific, but what you guys do, what you do is so rare to me because it operates in this very powerful way that exists in that realm and steadily exists in that realm,
Right. Thank you.
but doesn't compromise. So I'm fat because I've been trying to do that in my own way my whole life, and I'm trusting God, but I definitely have not been able to navigate that. Although I was like right here with certain situations my whole life, like skirting and flirting with the industry beast. But
Right.
yeah, it's amazing.
I think that's the only way. I'm speaking for myself, but the only way that I could function at a level where I could continue to do that, but also, be a happy human,
Totally.
is being able to retreat,
Yeah,
get away.
absolutely.
I got to get away from this stuff and I'll come back
My
and deal
wife
with it.
is all about that.
Yeah.
She'll appreciate that your influence on me too. And I'm about that now too, but it's taken me a long time to be able to put things down and realize that,
Right.
like Mr. Roberts said, that it's more important than
Man, rest is like, because I used to be of the thought, like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. You know how
yeah,
people
all
say when
that
it, and it's like,
cultures.
nah, dude, I need 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For
Like to
real.
be as productive as I need to be.
To be potent, to be quality, to be, yeah.
Right.
Like you said, it starts to mean nothing. It's like gibberish.
Right. And the whole, like in Nashville, man, I don't go out.
Yeah.
We had a show last night, had a lot of friends out. It was a good time, but I don't do well around a lot of people.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm not really big on that. And yeah, so
Yeah.
I think retreat, man.
Retreat. I love
Yeah.
it. All right. Well, here's our final question for this conversation. And this is from my dad, actually, when I told him a bit about this interview. And he's kind of, my shadow flow coach, whatever. We
I'm glad he could make it out, man. He's been nothing but great energy
it's
added
the
to the
best,
equation.
for real.
Awesome.
So, as someone who, like we've said, my dad was working in between artists and money and in Hollywood back in the day. And I told him that you're an artist manager as well as different things. So he said, in the division of labor in the world, there are creatives and people who help creatives navigate the world. Why did you decide to become a manager and what has it taught you?
So I went to like Governor School for the Arts. I went to
Mm,
Memphis College of Art.
mm,
I went to magnet schools for theater and visual
mm,
arts. So I've always been an artist. Then I opened a studio called the Phoenix Room.
mm,
I mean, this is probably 17 years ago now, but and there I was I was aspiring to be an artist. Like, I was
In what
making
form?
music.
Music.
Yeah, I was making music.
Cool.
And, I love to do it. I had a lot of fun doing it.
Mm.
It was an inspiring time in my life. But people started coming in who were really good. And I was working with them and managing them, but didn't realize it. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, and there was nothing to manage, you know what I mean? It was just guys who weren't making any money or making a living or anything. And
Yeah.
so I was doing things like, setting up photo shoots or managing a photographer and getting him to shoot. Anyway, doing all these managerial things.
Yeah.
Then one day a guy, I won't say any names, but a guy came through the door who had previously been signed to a big director in Atlanta, like big director. And that enticed me at that time in my career. I was like, oh man, he used to be signed to this guy.
Mm.
What I didn't know is I needed to ask myself, why is he no longer signed to this guy seeking my help? Right. So anyway, that led me to the point where he said, will you manage me? And that was, in his mind, the play was free studio time. In my mind, shit, I'll manage you. I want to learn the game. So I went and had some agreements drawn up, started managing the guy, and that's when I started managing artists. A couple of years later, me and Yellow Wolf had always been, we've been friends since we were like 12 or 13. And but we had lost contact for a while. An interesting, really interesting way that we linked back up. We used to write graffiti together, and his name was Coma, and I always wrote Ounce, right? So I managed this photographer at the time, and the photographer was like, hey, I'm going to shoot this guy named Yellow Wolf. And I just knew, as who I knew him as was Coma. So I wasn't sure, and this is when he first got signed to Shady. I wasn't sure who that was, right? And the photographer was like, you want to roll? And I never rolled with him. I just managed him. I was like, yeah, I'll go. He had Tennessean passes, like the newspaper passes, so he could shoot them. We get to the venue, and they were almost going out of their way to make sure that the passes were no good. They couldn't, he couldn't get back there and stuff. He got bummed out, was ready to leave. I'm Googling this Yellow Wolf guy and not sure who it is. And I see him on the cover of I think it was XXL or one of the Source or something with Eminem and a bunch of people. And I was like, man, I think I know this guy. They're like, yeah, right. You don't know this guy. So I check his Wikipedia and like, no, not only do I know this guy, but he's like my brother. Like I just haven't seen him in like 6-7 years. I'm not sure how this all happened. So the photographer takes me back. I said, told the people at the venue, I said, either he's going to tell me to leave or I'm not giving up because this is my friend for real. So we make our way around the corner, and some guys that knew me from way back let us back. And it was nothing but love when I first linked back up with Wolf. And, and at the time, I had a paint company because I got in trouble for having weed on me a couple times or whatever. And I had a paint company and was managing this artist and this photographer and a couple other artists. And I linked with Wolf then. And that's when, like, I would just help him with stuff. I wasn't managing him yet, right? And then one day, man, I was painting a karate studio and he needed to go to Detroit. I was like, yo, let's go. I said, I can't make it this time. I got this thing going on. Wolf said, sell all that shit. Sell the vans, sell the ladders. You never got to go back. So now here we are.
Wow.
What
a story, man. And where is your creative side these days? Are you painting? Are you?
Man, I love photography. I love to do photography. And I'm working on a book.
I remember. I didn't want to put anything on blast, but I remember that. Yeah.
And I won't say much about it because it's a labor of love and it's going to take time.
Yeah.
And there's no rush. The point is to provide something valuable as opposed to something quick. You know what I mean? So, but it's a book about psychedelics and my experience. And my fiance records our sessions, and she knows when to talk, what to talk about. And that's the direction we're going in.
That book is the same vibe. It was his wife who was
I got to check that out, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reference it, yeah.
Well, thank you again. Before we go, is there any last things you'd like to say? Any things you want to let the world know about how to contribute?
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think we've had an incredible talk. I really enjoyed being here with you guys.
Me too.
And building from this point moving forward.
Me too, man.
Yeah.
All the ways. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening, y'all. See you soon.